Hi everyone, a warm welcome to all of you to our first episode of the Sustainability podcast series. Today we have a special guest with us to kick off this series, an artist, a writer, a singer, a musician, a presenter, and a comedian. No, we don't have five different people, but the one-man army, Mr. Ollie Frost. Two serious facts about our guest. He's a cat lover and also owns a fake advertising agency. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Ollie Frost. Welcome, Ollie, to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Thank you so much for taking out time and doing this podcast with us today. I'll start with asking you to introduce yourself to our audience, who you are, what you do, and I'll uncover why you do what you do during the interview.
Well, most of what I do now is make novelty songs about the climate crisis, but also some other actions and I guess what you could call a kind of online activism as well, like the fake advertising agency you just made. But that's the short of it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll come to the question where I'll ask about your collaboration with Greta Thunberg. But before that, let me ask you this. Tell us about your stint at Britain Got Talent.
It's a funny thing. I was doing something a while ago where I was playing hip hop songs on a recorder, under the name Recorder Boy, and sort of one Sunday afternoon I was a bit bored and sent the video off to Britain's Got Talent, and surprisingly got called back a couple of times, and then found myself playing the recorder for Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, and all of that.
Yeah. I watched that video and it was hilarious. It was great humor and entertaining. I'm interested to know when you first realized that you have this creative talent of writing, singing, and for music.
I guess quite late on. Well, I wouldn't say I recognise the talent, but I'm doing it whether there's talent or not. But I was just like any teenager, making music in that way, but not particularly interesting stuff. And then I kind of went away from that for a while and came back into it through this playing the recorder thing. And then a few years ago, I started making work about climate crisis, and then at some point it all kind of merged together again, and I ended up doing novelty songs about the climate crisis.
Yeah, this is very interesting. And my next question was about when you first encountered climate change and when you decided to use your creative skills to raise awareness about climate crisis and rest. Tell us all about that.
Well, I guess it was like I said, I was doing this recorder thing, but I thought, well, I can't just do hip hop songs forever. But I kind of enjoyed that kind of work that was a little bit of performance based, I guess. So I just decided to think, how can I make this about something that is important or has a little bit of longevity? And the climate crisis, the bad thing about it and the good thing about it is that it's not going away anytime soon. So, and it's also such a deep issue that has touches on every little industry or bit of the planet, that makes it such makes it, I guess, creatively rewarding and fruitful to keep exploring for a long time. But also, well, it's bad luck for Earth as well that it is that way.
And you also posted about different advertisement on climate and how people can leverage these social media. To one of your ad was about look rich, live green, Insta green, and it was very interesting to see, and it was very innovative. Would you like to tell us more about that campaign?
Yeah, Instagram was a kind of riff off an older project I'd done, which was about a website where you could download other people's photos to fake a more perfect online life. But the twist with Instagram, this fake company, the idea was that you would buy photos of a wealthy, high carbon lifestyle. So you could look cool on Instagram, but be living a very like
Yeah.
low carbon lifestyle in real life.
And are you still doing that, or is it that project has closed
Well,
now?
I tend to, I guess, do them as one-offs or release them to the world and see what the reaction is. So it's not currently being pursued as an actual
Mm-hmm.
project, but it was funny. I did have some sort of journalists all trying to call me up and get me to pay for like some airtime to promote the service like it was real.
Yeah,
You always get some strange things that happen as a result.
that's true. But it was a great, I would say, great experiment, and it's very innovative, and it has potential to realize in reality, I would say. uh,
Yeah, it's strange.
yeah. uh, and since then, you have come a long way. You produce several viral creative content with millions of views across the platforms. Which one is your first viral song, and which is your favorite?
Well, I think, viral is a subjective word. You think you've gone viral with one thing until you've made something that's gone a bit more viral, I guess. But the one that's, I would say, huge is the vampire conspiracy,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I guess, a bit complicated to explain, but it's a song about socialist vampires who've made up climate change as a plot to push their evil socialist ideologies like clean air and planting lots of trees. And the purpose of all of this is for them to improve the quality of human blood, because as they say in the song, free range organic
Yeah,
humans have the most delicious blood. I thought
yeah,
it was quite a convoluted concept when I was writing it, but it has really taken off.
yeah. And is it your favorite one as well?
I think it's my favorite one. It's fun to sing as a vampire.
Great, great. Yeah, and you have different versions of it, I guess.
Yeah, there's a sort of a part two rebutting
Mm-hmm.
more criticisms of the socialist vampire ideology, and I also re-recorded it and did different versions of the videos.
Yeah,
Just because the first time I produced it, it was I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere, so I just spent a week on it. So a
yeah,
year later, I kind of came back to it, improved it.
yeah. It's strange. We often don't know whether that content or whatever we are making, whether it will take off, or what would be the result. And it's good to see when it takes off.
Yeah,
Really
we
great.
really don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so it has been a great journey for you so far, and we'll talk about your collaboration with Greta. And before we do that, may I ask you to sing a few lines for that song, from that song, for our audience?
Um, Gosh, I've never been asked to before, but the non-song version is it goes, Greta doesn't eat feta, halloumi, camembert, brie, or cheddar. And if Greta had a piece of bruschetta, there wouldn't be any mozzarella, or something like that.
Oh, that's great. Uh, thank you so much for singing that for us. This is funny, and I'd say powerful at the same time. The whole song, if someone listens, it's really striking. And tell us more about what motivated you to write about Greta, and how you hear that she remade the song by performing on it herself.
So that was, the first one I made, and I guess it just started off as a little rhyme. Greta doesn't eat feta. I was just going to make it as a sticker or something, and then all these other, I realized that Greta rhymed with quite a lot of other things, and the kind of
Mm-hmm.
the message evolved out of that. And yeah, that was the first one I put together as a finished song and a video. And the weird thing was that maybe not immediately after it was released, but maybe a year after it came out, it started doing the rounds on TikTok. I guess it had like a couple of million views. And then by that, I think some friends of Greta saw it, passed it on, and they spent the day making a kind of shot-for-shot remake of the video,
Wow.
which I had no idea about. So I don't know if I can call it a collaboration, but
Yeah.
Yeah, what they did was great and very unexpected.
I think it was serendipity,
Yeah,
if I recall that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. But that was great. Means the song was great, and her performance was also great in your song. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ollie. This reminds me to ask you about the PFIT 24 contest that you are participating with this greatest song. Would you like to tell us and the audience a little more about this and how we can support you in this?
Yeah, well, it's a kind of climate song contest, which, given that that's all I do, I thought I would have a shot at entering, but I've gone back to that first song and re-recorded it, and you wouldn't have guessed it from my rendition earlier, but I've sung it a little bit better than I could when I was just figuring things out a few years ago. But to vote in that, you just have to like the video on the PFight YouTube page, which I think is linked from my YouTube page. But we'll see what happens.
I request each and everyone who is watching this podcast to head to the link provided and like the video to vote and support Ollie and also enjoy listening to it. This brings us to the last section of our podcast, which is utter the word. I'll say a name and you have to say the first word that comes to your mind. Are you ready, Ollie?
So you'll say a word and then I'll say a word. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try.
Okay. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, the first one is this would be easier. Taylor Swift.
Great music, but shouldn't have a private jet. Sorry, that's more than one word. Okay, we'll try again.
No worries. You can say more than one word and a sentence if you'd like. That's a great response. The second one is Rishi Sunak.
He's an absolute criminal, and we hope to be rid of him soon. I mean, what he's done with new oil and gas licensing, and what the claims he's made about that are just could not be further from the truth. You know, pushing this story about energy security and lowering bills when it's just simply not true. So I hope we won't have him for much longer.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. The third one we have is Coldplay.
Coldplay. I guess one of my first loves from back in the day, but I haven't really listened to them in a very long time. They seem to be doing some interesting things around being a more sustainable band. You know, I don't know what the numbers are and whether that actually works, but it's interesting.
Yes, they have very interesting concept of global citizen, where they ask all the participants to do something related with climate change and take action around that. Yeah, that's even Coldplay is one of my favorite band. Thank you so much for sharing that. The fourth one is King Charles.
King Charles. I feel a bit sorry for him. Just having supposedly been on this environmental message for most of his life, and now Rishi Sunak's telling him to announce new oil and gas fields. I feel a little bit sorry for him, but I mean, as sorry as you can feel for someone who's been born a monarch. But yeah.
Okay. Fifth one is Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg's doing for all the things that people criticize her for is still doing a great job and making very clear messaging. Yeah, but we don't. I feel like we don't hear from her as much anymore.
That's true. And we have a bonus one as well. Cat, the animal.
Cat. I guess think of my one, who's fluffy and beautiful, but also an absolute menace.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for those response, and this is amazing. Thanks a ton, Ollie, for doing this podcast and being very candid throughout. And I can't wait to see and hear what you create next. And all the very best from Be a Bridge for Change. We wish to see you again very, very soon. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.